Tuesday, October 1. The miracle at the pool of Bethesda. The next sign John records took place at the pool of Bethesda. We read about that in John 5 verses 1 to 9, and we'll do that shortly. It was believed that an angel caused movement in the water and that the first sick person to enter the water would be healed. As a result, the porches of the pool were crowded with those hoping to be cured at the next occurrence. Jesus went to Jerusalem, and as he passed by the pool, he saw the waiting throng. What a sight it must have been, too. All these people, some surely quite ill, waiting and waiting by the water for a cure that surely will not come. What an opportunity for Jesus. Read John chapter 5, verses 1 to 9, and the question we'll ask is, because anyone by the pool obviously wanted to get well, why did Jesus ask the paralytic if he wanted to be healed in verse 6? Let's read John chapter 5, beginning at verse 1. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. When one has been sick for a long time, the sickness becomes the norm. And strange as it may seem, it can sometimes be a bit disturbing to leave the disability behind. The man implies in his answer that he wants healing. The problem is that he is looking for it in the wrong place, while the one who made man's legs is standing right in front of him. Little did the man know who was talking to him, although after the healing he might have started to understand that Jesus was indeed someone very special. We read in the Desire of Ages, page 202 and 203, Jesus does not ask this sufferer to exercise faith in him. He simply says, "Rise, take up thy bed, and walk." But the man's faith takes hold upon that word. Every nerve and muscle thrills with new life, and healthful action comes to his crippled limbs. Without question, he sets his will to obey the command of Christ, and all his muscles respond to his will. Springing to his feet, he finds himself an active man. Jesus had given him no assurance of divine help. The man might have stopped to doubt and lost his one chance of healing. But he believed Christ's word, and in acting upon it, he received strength. End of quote. And that brings us to our question for today. Jesus later encountered the man in the temple and said, "You have been made well. Sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon you," in verse 14. What is the relationship between sickness and sin? And why must we understand that not all sickness is a direct result of specific sins in our life? This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.